Hi, this is Michael. Thank you very much for your attention. In this video, we have some really astonishing information regarding a UFO $22 million video released by the United States Department of Defense. But first, we have known for a long time now that there are a few extraterrestrial life forms using the planet Earth as part of their resources. And the planet Earth atmosphere, it is one of these areas. And today, in this $22 million Pentagon video, we are going to show you indisputable proof of the reality of the extraterrestrial presence on the planet Earth. It is well known that the New York Times newspaper were handed down in secret some UFOs videos. However, for the sake of time, in this program, we are going to analyze only one of these videos. And here we have the $22 million video in question. And what we are seeing, it is a highly strange and very sophisticated encounter in which a highly advanced human-made machine has come across the path of a very rare and exotic object. Do you see what seems to be a line dividing the clouds and the area where this object is? Examine carefully the sky around this object. Notice the strange ash coloring that we see around it. It looks like steam clouds coming out of a pipe on a cold winter day. This is a heat signature of something that we are seeing. Let us zoom to it. Also, the white snow-like effects around this object, it seems to be from this object breaking the sound barrier millions of times over and over. And yet, we don't hear any sound, and this object does not seem to be moving that fast. Some answers in a moment. But simplicity and sophistication don't go together. Picture yourself getting on board and being strapped down to one of these highly sophisticated jet fighter planes. Millions of dollars and time have been invested to train and to mold you for this operation. While cruising thousands of feet up in the sky, you spot this object. At your hands and command, they have placed some of the most destructive weapons ever made by humanity. Time is crucial. Quickly, you must identify what this object is. we need to keep on checking the fire department data bank to address the heat signature source that we see in the sky around this object. However, this object seems to be breaking the sound barrier with thundering sound and heat. And yet, we don't hear any sound coming out of it. Among other reasons, this is because time and space have been distorted between this object and us. Let us show you something. This aircraft, it is breaking the sound barrier, and we hear a boom sound from it because we are occupying the same space and time near this aircraft. But what will happen if we were to distort space and time between us and this aircraft? Take a look at this comparison. And as we slow down the process of time between this aircraft and us, we can actually see broken the sound barrier effects as millions of tiny crystals, almost in the same way that this cocoon of energy is doing. But this airplane can only produce these effects for a few seconds. This object, with its brutal magnifying force of tremendous heat, speed, and size, it is doing something so incredible, perplexing, and remarkable that today, 2020, it is not only that the human race does not have the technology to reproduce it. The bigger challenge today is that the human race does not even have the terminology to explain it. We find the motions of this object strange, of some kind, and very intriguing. And now that we know, we have been wondering about it. For example, in this fast up and down diagonal motion, this object seems to be displaying some sort of control and intelligence. Try this experiment for yourself. Looking at this object motion, which now we have just zoomed to it, and it is moving at normal speed. Use your hand to follow up this object diagonal motion. Among many things to notice, due to gravity pull, a diagonal motion, it is more difficult to make than a horizontal one. It takes more energy to go back up than to move downward. And it takes a great deal of control to stop on the downward motion to return back up diagonally to the starting point. And the key word here is control, because if we can establish control, then we are talking about intelligence, be organic or artificial. And it is the speed in which this object goes back and forth to the same point that it has us wondering if these motions were meant to mean something to the approaching aircraft. Watch carefully as this object, climbing in an angle, interacting with something, suddenly changes direction and then, in a very strange way, it seems to be falling down. And now, accelerating at lightning speed, this object climbs back up to where it was before. And here is the strange object. And it is a craft of some kind, which appears to be a part of a cluster of many other vehicles and objects arranged inside of a most unusual cocoon made out of energy. In other words, in this darkness that we see, it seems that we are looking at some sort of gigantic time travel device carrying inside of it many vehicles and other objects. And this strange craft, which we may not be seeing its true shape, because this alien craft seems to be made out of some type of moldable plastic-like material that is housed in what seems to be a few layers of some sort of magnifying glasses, indicating that not only is this strange craft using solar energy for its operation, but also it seems to be designed to store in large quantity solar energy to transport it someplace else. And the reason why we are saying this, it is because of its shape. This craft seems to be designed as a very strange cargo ship that is housed in what seems to be some sort of magnifying glasses, which it seems to be making the temperature inside this cocoon several thousand times much hotter than the one over the planet Earth surface. At the top here, we find a row of portholes, and we can see the essence of it here. If you study the United States $22 million Pentagon video carefully, you can see something jetting out from these portholes. This is because this craft, it is constantly moving around. As part of this window or porthole, this craft seems to have two arms. You see it? These two arms move back and forth, scooping something from the corners of this strange craft and bringing it to the center of it. Take a look at the center of this craft. Do you see that it has this round opening that it looks like a window, a porthole, or something like that? And inside of it, there seems to be some sort of device. Did you see this? At the bottom here, this strange craft opens up in various sections that seem to allow for some type of propulsion system operation, and also to let something in and out of it. In a few minutes, we are going to show you some details of it. Also, around this strange craft, there seems to be something that is constantly spinning around it. And whatever this thing it may be, sometimes it's shining and sometimes it is not. And now let us take a look at a second image of this strange craft. In this next image, we want you to notice one thing. Remember the round window in the middle? Notice how this window has become now a part of this large vent or opening that we see at the bottom left of this craft. And also notice that the object that was at the center of this window, it seems to be pointing out to the left now. You see that too? Notice how these windows, they seem to be spotted all around this object. But at times it seems like these windows, they move around this object. Now notice one thing, and that is how this cocoon of energy continues to shrink and to expand itself. And at the same time, the strange craft, it seems to be expanding along with it. Because look how small the strange craft looks now in comparison with the image that we saw before. And if you remember, This is what we see happening in the Pentagon $22 million video being watched around the world today. Okay, now we are going to take a look at another image of this craft. And here we have another image. And again, notice how the shape of it seems to have somehow changed. However, in this image, we can see what appears to be some of the covers for the tap vents. And this area here seems to be spinning around this object, constantly changing the positions of this vent, or maybe just the covers. We are just guessing. But in this image, look how thick the sections of this craft they seem to be now. It seems that at the same time that this strange craft can expand and mold itself into different shapes, it can make itself thick and thinner, which is leading us to believe that a cocoon, it is a power plant of some sort. For example, notice that here we can see at the bottom right the essence of the other vent or opening that we told you about before. And if you looked to the bottom left, we can see details of the other vent. So it seems that these vents are constantly opening and closing during this object operation. Which brings us to speculate that perhaps these vents are playing a key role in the motions that we see this object performing in this video over the planet Earth skyline. Where this cocoon and its alien companionships are, there is no wind, no gravity, and no G-forces to be concerned with. So this alien vehicle, aided by its cocoon, can at any given time and on any given direction, they can accelerate and decelerate at perhaps 50,000 miles per hour, and the occupants inside of this vehicle would not feel any effects at all from any G-forces. Within this alien cocoon, the transition of time as we know it has been distorted, allowing this alien vehicle to be seen over the planet Earth skyline when in fact it is someplace else. This is why some of these alien vehicles, they can change their appearance in mid-flight. You see, they are expending X amount of time, perhaps hours or even days, doing something that to us may seem to be just a few seconds. Because calculating the amount of compressed time that we see in this video in relationship to this cocoon of energy motions, our open house theory is that we are looking at a few days operation taking place on the alien side of reality. So we may be looking at a few days of this alien life form go by us in a wink of an eye. Think of it as watching a movie in super fast forward motion. And what is so interesting about it is that in this video, we have had an encounter with these alien entities, and we have managed to record the missing time itself. And just as we cannot see any intelligent life form in this strange cocoon of energy, we think that for those aliens, they cannot see any intelligent life form on the planet Earth. This cocoon of energy and its alien ships are a big lesson, not just about the working of this universe, but also how perceptions can change the working of this universe. For example, if a tree falls on the forest, does it make a sound? The general perception is, if a human being is present, from the point of the observer, a tree does fall and it does make a sound. But what if instead we were to have present an intelligent thinking creature, a scientist from another planet where there is no sound and there are no trees? Then from this point of the observer, the perception rule needs to be changed. And perhaps the perception may be a strange object has moved, but why? And maybe this scientist from another world doing some scientific research finds out that the strange object that just moved happens to be, for them, a dangerous, powerful substance that they can use as a source for space traveling. But in the point of the observer itself, in this image, we have planetary resources, part of the planet ecological system, which these creatures here see as an ordinary fallen tree, and these other creatures see as a powerful source for interstellar space traveling. So, the planetary resources have not changed. The change that we see in this image, it comes from the different needs of existence of the life forms that we see in it. The UFO phenomenon, it is rich in its high level of strangeness and sophistication. And to understand it, the human mind must reinvent itself and to break away from simplicity. Stop being so naive and to raise the level of creative thinking, to ask better questions and to demand better answers. For traditional way of thinking will yield no answers from this alien knowledge and technology.